Everyone's here, so let's go. Driver, just go ahead without worrying about it. The bus left after our manager, Bob, said those icy remarks. I could see Catherine's nervous face staring down at me from the window. First of all, I was the only one assigned a totally different location for the meeting. Hold on. Please let me in as well. As the vehicle withdrew, my voice reverberated in vain. I watched TV in silence at home. At that moment, a message from Bob buzzed through my phone. Sincerely, I assumed this would occur eventually. Bob's frantic voice could be heard when I picked up the phone. We just arrived at the hotel, and they informed us that the $50,000 lodging cost would apply. Without you. What's happening? The cost of abandoning me was high. I didn't care if they camped out or coughed up $50,000. I was just concerned about Catherine. Sean Lucas is my name. I work for a mid-sized electronics leasing company and am 33 years old. After graduating from college, I started working in the sales department of this organization, and I'm currently in my 11th year. My days are full of motivation because I've taken on significant duties and been given significant assignments. I believe that I get along well with my coworkers, and recently, several of my less experienced colleagues have begun to admire me and want to spend time with me. Kevin is one of them in particular. We're all going out for drinks later, scene. Do you want to come? Everybody is eager to hear more of your amazing college tales. Don't tell me you're just buttering me up to make me pay. You got me. It's amusing and educational to observe the antics of younger coworkers, even though I'm still seen as young in the firm. They've taught me a lot, and they frequently help me see my own weaknesses. And it's not just the men. It's not because I'm some sort of attractive boy that the women in the office appear to like me too. 3 amiable sisters lived close to my parents' house when I was growing up, and we spent a lot of time playing together. I gained a lot of knowledge about the thoughts and joys of women. It's so soothing to be around you, Scene. You always consider from a woman's point of view. Therefore, I don't have to tread carefully. Oh, aren't you thinking about getting married soon? You are admired by many of the women in the office. I would also be raising my hand if I were single. Scene, you're what I call a gentleman at heart. Being a gentleman at heart seems to be the male equivalent of having a lovely soul. I've had many chances to date women, but none of those relationships have lasted very long. Perhaps I simply hadn't found someone I genuinely wanted to marry yet, or perhaps my expectations were too high. In addition, it's not uncommon for people in their 30s to be unmarried these days, and late weddings are more prevalent. I therefore didn't feel hurried and believed that it would be okay to be single in the event that I didn't find the appropriate person. Then, however, my perspective on life abruptly shifted. One of our new hires was a woman who was just like me. She was assigned to the same sales department as me, and her name was Catherine. It felt like lightning struck me when I first saw her because she was so incredibly beautiful. Catherine is my name. I'll put in a lot of effort to contribute significantly to the team. I'm excited to collaborate with each and every one of you. Her words were polite, and she had a calm demeanor for someone her age. There was nothing flashy about her at all. I found myself thinking that maybe I had remained single all this time just so I could marry her. I was assigned as Catherine's mentor. This gave me a legitimate reason to talk to her, and a perfect chance to show her my good side. However, a significant obstacle arose. That obstacle was someone close to us. The immediate obstacle was, without a doubt, my direct supervisor. At the same time, Catherine joined the company. Bob was transferred to our sales department as the new manager. His arrival immediately soared the atmosphere in the office. Bob was an elite who graduated from a prestigious state university. He had been with the headquarters sales department until this transfer to our branch. What this transfer meant was unclear to us. At 48 years old and never married, Bob became a topic of interest among the female employees. If he's never been married, doesn't that mean there's something wrong with his personality? Normally, a guy that high up would have arranged marriages proposed by his superiors, right? Maybe he was so disliked by women that none of those worked out. I tried to avoid getting involved in such gossip, but as we worked together, we began to realize those speculations might not be far off. Bob behaved as if bossing others around was his main job with an air of arrogance. There was one instance where an employee made a scheduling mistake during a meeting. Bob's rage was over the top, hurling insults so harsh they felt like personal attacks. Shouldn't he be focusing on more important things? As a manager, Bob should have taken the initiative to visit the client and apologize on behalf of his team. Instead, he went around badmouthing his team as incompetent, making it sound like he was the victim of unfortunate circumstances. That employee was pushed to the brink of resignation, but, thanks to our encouragement, managed to bounce back and close a big deal. On top of that, Bob seemed to develop a particular hostility toward me. The reason? Catherine. It appeared that Bob had taken a liking to Catherine and wanted to date her. However, Catherine came up with various excuses to avoid any personal interaction. But Bob soon realized that Catherine's feelings were directed toward me. Knowing that I was ahead in the race for love, Bob began harassing me in every way he could. He would intentionally give me incorrect schedules or dump an unreasonable amount of paperwork on me. Each time, other colleagues stepped in to help, and so far, I'd managed to get by without major issues. In the midst of this, Catherine seemed to be calmly observing both my and Bob's behavior. Bob is just awful, isn't he? You're doing your job perfectly fine, Scene. As long as I have your support, Catherine, I can handle anything. Plus, other coworkers are on my side too. I'm really lucky to be surrounded by such great people. Ironically, Bob's oppressive behavior ended up bringing Catherine and me closer together. Amid all this, a company's sales department trip was planned. I was tasked with finding accommodations and booked a luxurious resort lodge for 10 people. As I was looking at the resort's website, Catherine peeked at my screen. Wow, you managed to book this lodge? I've heard it's incredibly popular, with a 3-year waiting list for reservations. I used some special connections to pull some strings. Just keep that part between us, though. Seeing how excited Catherine was made me look forward to the trip even more. For the trip, we planned to travel by coach bus. On the day of departure, I eagerly packed my small suitcase and headed to the designated meeting spot. However, I couldn't find any of my coworkers, and there was no bus in sight. Could it be that Bob gave me a different meeting location on purpose? I called Kevin on my phone, and he told me that everyone except me was already gathered at a completely different bus stop. Grabbing my suitcase, I started running. Sweating heavily, I somehow managed to reach the bus stop, only to find everyone already on the bus. From the window, Bob saw me and laughed, smugly. Everyone's here, so let's go, driver. Don't worry about it, just go. Heartlessly, the bus pulled away. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Catherine's anxious face as she looked down at me. Wait, please let me on too. My voice echoed in vain as the bus disappeared from view. As I stood there watching the bus drive away, I felt all the energy drain from my body. Since the trip was planned for 3 days and 2 nights, I decided to treat it as an unexpected long weekend. Although I considered myself a calm and mild-mannered person, my anger boiled over at this incident. Taking out my phone, I made a quick call and then sighed deeply. Determined to make the most of my time off, I headed to a movie theater and turned off my phone. After the movie, I treated myself to a fancy solo dinner before heading back to my apartment. When I got home, I noticed the answering machine on my landline was blinking. That's when I realized my phone had been off the whole time. Turning it back on, I found a flood of voicemail messages waiting for me. In truth, I had turned off my phone knowing Bob would call once they reached the lodge. The movie theater was just an excuse. Of course, I hadn't planned on leaving it off this long. Most of the voicemails were from Bob. Just then, my phone rang again, and this time, it was Bob calling. When I answered, his voice was panicked and frantic. "We've just arrived at the lodge, but they said without you, the total cost is $50,000. What the heck is going on?" Leaving me behind came at a steep price. Whether they paid $50,000 or camped out somewhere, I couldn't care less. The only thing that worried me was Catherine. I abruptly ended my call with Bob and contacted Catherine. "I just got a call from our manager. Do you ladies have a place to stay tonight?" After a lot of searching, we managed to find a pod hotel. "We'll stay here tonight, so don't worry." I felt bad that Catherine ended up staying at a pod hotel because I wasn't there, but Catherine laughed brightly. I was expecting to stay at a luxury resort, but now I'm at a pod hotel. It's kind of funny, really. But it's a good experience. It's actually pretty fun. So what about the guys? Are they also staying at a pod hotel? Well, the three of us ladies barely managed to get in. The guys, though, they don't have anywhere to stay. They look really worn out, so I'm a bit worried. It's peak tourist season, so I guess all the lodgings are fully booked. Still, if it's just the guys waiting on the street until morning, it shouldn't be too dangerous. Besides, it's their punishment for leaving me behind. What goes around comes around. Once I confirmed that Catherine had a place to stay, I hung up. Then I called Bob, who was already in a state of panic. Letting you handle the lodging arrangements was a huge mistake. At this rate, we'll have to sleep outside in our exhausted state. Do something about this. You must be really tired. That's rough. But it's peak tourist season, so most places are probably fully booked. Exactly. I've contacted so many places, but they're all full. I get that it's impossible to find last-minute accommodations, but why can't we stay here just because you're not with us? I don't get it. I couldn't help but smirk. Why were they turned away? It was because the luxury lodge for this trip happened to be my family's business. My older brother now managed the lodge, having taken it over from our parents. This wasn't just any ordinary lodge. It was famous for its exceptional service, with prices to match. Guests said it was more relaxing than going abroad, offering luxurious, unforgettable moments. The cuisine was top-notch, and the spa was opulent. Because of this, even those in secret relationships found it the perfect place to enjoy a worry-free, ultra-luxurious spa date. Recently, we even received inquiries from international celebrities. The only reason we secured rooms for this trip was that I was part of the group. Our lodge was famously difficult to book, and the guests who did stay were mostly CEOs, celebrities, and other wealthy individuals. In fact, the wait time for a reservation was 3 years. In other words, this wasn't the kind of place where an average company retreat could typically stay. For 2 nights, the cost per person was $5,000, making the total $50,000 for the 10 of us. Even so, $50,000 was considered a bargain for what we offered. I had already told my brother about how Bob schemed to leave me behind on this trip. They left me behind on purpose. It was all Bob's doing. Please don't let him have a good time. I was looking forward to catching up with you, but to hear this happened, unbelievable. Leave it to me. My brother made sure to get back at Bob on my behalf. When Bob realized the truth, he couldn't hide his shock. "You're the heir of such a luxurious lodge? Why didn't you ever mention that? Is that something I need to tell you? It has nothing to do with my work at our company. Just let us stay for 1 night using your connections. I've been looking forward to this trip for so long." But it wasn't just staying at the luxury lodge that he was excited about. He had also enjoyed leaving me behind and watching me chase after the bus. The company trip was planned for 3 days and 2 nights. If they wanted to follow the schedule, they'd need to find another place to stay for the second night. Remembering how I was humiliated, I responded to Bob. You shouldn't need my connections. Surely my brother, the manager, couldn't possibly overlook your remarkable personality. Are you mocking me? Just get over here and arrange for us to stay now. I stayed silent for a moment, then hung up the phone and blocked Bob's number. As for getting to the location, should I take a train or a plane? I booked the earliest flight for the next day and sent a message to Kevin through an app. I'll head there tomorrow. Kevin replied with a brief, got it. In the end, Bob and his group spent the night in a downtown area, meeting up with the women in the morning. The employees were apparently complaining loudly, trying to figure out whose fault it was that things had gone so wrong. At that moment, I was in a taxi heading to the location from the airport when Kevin video called me. I'll discreetly keep this app open. Everyone's starting to suspect Bob. Thanks to Kevin's quick thinking, I got a live broadcast of Bob being cornered. Wasn't Sean responsible for organizing this trip? Why isn't he here? Sean's a reliable guy. If he weren't coming, he would have made sure to arrange accommodations for us. I actually contacted Sean yesterday, and it sounds like this was Bob's doing. Everyone immediately began questioning Bob. Amused, I watched the chaos unfold from the back seat of the taxi. Even the driver couldn't help but laugh. Realizing he was being live-streamed to me, Kevin put on a more dramatic tone. Sean was told to meet at a completely different location. He said Bob admitted it directly. That's a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything like that. But I saw Sean arrive out of breath. At the time, I thought he had come to see us off because he couldn't join. Why did you rush the driver to leave then? The accusations against Bob continued to pile up. Kevin, speaking clearly to ensure I could hear. Everything, pressed Bob further. Sean's family owns the lodge we were supposed to stay at. Thanks to him, we got a special arrangement for 10 people. Why did you exclude him from the trip? I didn't mean to. Besides, I didn't know the lodge was owned by Sean's family or that it was such a high-end place. That's not an answer. Why do you dislike Sean so much anyway? The murmurs around them grew louder, with more voices criticizing Bob. Kevin pushed even harder. So what's your plan now? Are we supposed to spend another night sleeping outside? If that's the case, I'd rather just go home right now. We came to relax, but this is exhausting and infuriating. Shouldn't we charge Bob for all the money we spent on this trip? Just then, the taxi I was riding in stopped in front of Kevin and the others. I stepped out of the back seat gracefully, right into the middle of the commotion. I raised one hand in acknowledgement to the employees who had noticed me and declared, I apologize for the inconvenience caused by my absence yesterday. I've arranged for all employees except Bob to stay for one more night. Cheers erupted from the employees, and they crowded around me, giving high fives. Seeing Catherine's smile was the biggest relief of all. What was most satisfying, however, was that no one sympathized with Bob completely losing his standing. Bob still complained, "Why am I the only one who can't stay? If there's another night available, I should be able to stay too." The employees immediately criticized him. This all happened because you left Scene behind, didn't it? If there's no place for you, why don't you just head home already? I contacted my brother, who sent a shuttle bus to pick us up. Together with all the employees, except Bob, we headed to the lodge. That night, we had dinner together in the banquet hall. We invited the town's best performers and enjoyed traditional entertainment. This is such a rare experience. I doubt you'll ever have another chance like this. Yeah, the number of traditional performers is dwindling. CEOs of big companies even fly out here just to enjoy this kind of entertainment. Every little gesture they make is so elegant. I wish I could move like that. The banquet continued, and I had the longest conversation I'd ever had with Catherine. Meanwhile, Bob was unable to enter the lodge and spent a second night sleeping outdoors. The next morning, we woke up feeling refreshed and enjoyed a heartfelt breakfast. The meal featured rare and luxurious items you'd never find in the city. Someone teasingly took a photo of the breakfast and sent it to Bob, who quickly replied. Apparently, Bob had settled for some convenience store bread. After leaving the lodge, we went sightseeing. Through this trip, I'd say the bond among our sales team grew even stronger. My brother told me, feel free to use the lodge again any time. So we all talked about returning next year. In the afternoon, we headed to the bus terminal for our scheduled return trip. There, we found Bob, exhausted and sleeping on a bench. Kevin leaned over to me and whispered jokingly, "Should we just leave him here?" "Don't even joke about that. Think about how it feels to be left behind." I approached Bob and gently tapped his shoulder. Bob opened his eyes but didn't seem fully present and avoided looking at me. "Bob, the bus is leaving soon. Let's head back." "I'm not going. If you want to go, go ahead without me." "Are you serious? You don't even have a place to stay, do you?" Bob stood up silently, his face expressionless, and quietly walked away. We couldn't exactly force Bob to come back against his will. As he walked away, with no other choice, we departed as planned. I took a day off and returned to work the following day. However, Bob didn't return to work. The employees began to worry. Bob must have gotten back already, right? He probably took a different bus after ours. After 2 nights of sleeping outside, he's probably sore all over. Maybe he's at a chiropractor, and will come back tomorrow or the day after. Even after 2 more days passed, Bob still hadn't shown up to work or contacted anyone. With no other choice, I called Bob's cell phone, but the person who answered wasn't him. It was a police officer at a local station. At last, we've identified who he is. He's been refusing to speak and had no identification on him. What exactly did Bob do? I never imagined he'd end up in trouble with the police. Actually, he was caught shoplifting and was arrested, the officer explained. According to the officer, Bob had been sleeping outdoors, and at some point, his wallet was stolen. Even though he still had his phone and could have reached out to us for help, he didn't. Perhaps it was a matter of pride, but eventually, he couldn't stand the hunger and tried to take some bread from a convenience store. When he attempted to leave without paying, he was immediately caught by a store clerk. During questioning, Bob refused to explain himself and wouldn't unlock his phone. It was only when I called that he finally unlocked it, but he still refused to talk. That's when the officer answered the phone and explained the situation to me. In any case, we need someone to come and pick him up. We were at a loss. Getting to him would mean taking a flight or a long bus ride again. After discussing it with upper management, it was decided that I would go retrieve him. After completing the necessary paperwork, the 2 of us walked out of the police station together. That was the last time I saw Bob. "Bob, let's at least go back to the office and explain everything." "You aren't heartless." "No, it's over. Everything is finished." Shaking off my hand, Bob walked away, his figure looking smaller than ever. Because he committed a crime during a company-sponsored trip, Bob was dismissed. The one who succeeded Bob as the sales manager was me. Becoming the sales manager gave me a strong sense of confidence. Determined not to let this opportunity pass, I made a bold decision and proposed to Catherine. "Catherine, will you marry me? I promise to make you happy." "Yes, of course." And so we began walking toward our future together. When we visited my family's lodge to share our engagement news, my brother offered a suggestion. Now that you're married, why not run the lodge together? Catherine could become the future lady. I've never been a company employee, but I think managing the lodge would give you a more fulfilling life than staying in the corporate world. Having left all lodge matters to my brother, I was taken aback by the proposal. Catherine, however, was open-minded. I don't know if I'm more suited to working at the company or the lodge. Either way is fine with me. The truth is, you can't know what suits you until you try. But I couldn't tie Catherine, who was fresh out of college with little life experience, to the lodge. After several discussions, we decided to continue our careers as company employees. As for Bob, we couldn't help but wonder what had become of him. When one of the employees, who got along relatively well with him, reached out, Bob's voice sounded utterly defeated. He hadn't sought new employment and was living off his savings, which were slowly running out. Eventually, his savings dried up, and he couldn't pay his rent, leading to his eviction. After that, we lost all track of him. According to my brother, a homeless man who closely resembles Bob has been seen around town. A year has passed since then. I married Catherine, and we're both working at the same company. Catherine seems to enjoy her work, and I'm glad I didn't force her into becoming a trainee landlady at the lodge back then. I also find fulfillment in working for the company now. If our perspectives change as we grow older, we can always reconsider our way of life. No matter the circumstances, as long as Catherine is with me, I'll be happy.